Today, I want to talk about kind of a subject in a broad sense. I want to talk about problem solving while you're out living as an expat, living abroad. Now, I spent 21 years of my life in the engineering department for a medical device company. It was originally Advanced Cardiovascular Systems, and they became Guidant, and then they were bought by Abbott Laboratories. Um, and my job every day really boiled down to two things. One was to do series of experiments over and over under the guidance of the main engineer responsible for the project to monitor about 20 different parameters, make tiny little changes, and document every hour, do little tests, and determine what was the cause and effect. So cause and effect was like half of my job. The other half of my job was that we had certain milestones, certain things we were trying to accomplish with the different polymers and such. And so the second half of my job was to problem solve, was to be told, okay, we need a plastic that can stretch this far before it breaks, but it has to be this flexible, it has to be this transparent, it has to be this. It has to meet all these criteria. And so there were problems that had to be solved along the way. And being an expat, you're pretty much thrust into the same situation. Amidst all of the excitement of being in a new environment, a new country, and new romantic possibilities, and new foods and cultures, in the middle of all that, real life is still cranking along. And real life eventually is going to bring you two kinds of problems. Same problems you always had in life. Two types of problems. One are the problems that happen to you, okay, through no fault of your own. Sometimes things go bad and you're faced with a problem to solve because it happened to you. And it could be something completely out of your control, something that you could not have foreseen or prevented, really. It could be something like you have an apartment and then you decide to take a short trip somewhere. And when you come back, it turns out that it rained so much, it's 5 feet of water all the way around your hotel. And now you got a problem. All your stuff is in that hotel and there's 5 feet of water. It could be something like that. And that's pretty dramatic, situation. It could be something like, and I've done this, I left my apartment or my condo there when I was back in Mabolo. And I was all excited and everything, and I went ahead and I had the door locked, and at the very last second, as I was about to lock and pull the door, and it was about to latch into the door jamb, I asked myself, "Do I have my keys?" And I pulled it and I locked it, and I instantly realized I left my keys in the apartment, so I was now locked out of my apartment. Now, the second type of problem you're going to be asked to solve are the ones that are clearly your fault. The problems that you end up with and having to fix because you made a bad decision. You either kind of knew it was going to be a bad decision and you took your chances anyway, or if you had just given it a little bit more thought, you would have realized it was a bad decision and you wouldn't have done it. But you went ahead and did it. You made a bad decision, and now the consequences have come, and now you got a problem that you need to fix. So the two types of problems you're going to face as an expat are going to be things that happen to you, and then problems you're going to face because of bad decisions that you made. Now, in the engineering department and also in the production department, we had these things called SOPs. SOPs, and it stood for Standard Operating Procedure. Now, the Standard Operating Procedure, they had one for every single part number of everything. And it was basically a how-to document. It was your go-to document. And when you started the day, I'm not kidding, it would say, when you get to your work desk, there was an SOP for how to start your day. And it actually would have like line items, and it would say, first, get the alcohol, put it on the lint-free wipe down the table. I mean, it was very specific. You were to go through these specific steps. And then they had more, detailed SOPs for more complicated procedures, like how to start a certain type of machine. Some of them had to be warmed up first before they could be fully, engaged and all this. And along in the middle of those SOPs, it would tell you, if you encounter this problem, check this. If that is okay, check this. If that is okay, check this. And if that is wrong, do this. It was a step-by-step standard operating procedure to know what to do, so that you could either avoid problems or fix problems. So here you are, you're an expat, and you've decided to move to another country. It might be Cambodia, it might be Philippines, it might be Vietnam, but you move to another country, and you just need to set your mind that you need to expect, and I know this is kind of a killjoy, but you've got to expect in some part of your mind and be ready for the fact that some certain things are going to go wrong eventually. Okay, I sometimes call it weirdness, like when you have to deal with, you planned on going to the DMV, or not the DMV, but the immigration department, and you had a very simple task. It's like your plane leaves on Monday, and you were going to go to immigration on Friday. You were going to get your exit clearance, and then you're gonna be all set for your flight on Monday. And then you get there, it's really crowded, and then they tell you that it's going to take 4 days for you to get your exit clearance. Now, that could have been prevented if you'd have done a little bit of research ahead of time. And so that's where I want to kind of get now into how can you deal with problems that are outside or within or the result of your own actions. And number one thing you can do is research. That's the first thing you should already be doing, even before you move, is research. And you're probably doing that already, here at my channel and maybe, other channels, for the country that you're looking to move to. And that's a good idea, because one of the first things you can do that's within your control is to research where you're going and what's expected, and everything from immigration to visa to how much money, how do you access your money. These are all the sort of things that you want to be looking into. It's a good preventative action you can take to be prepared, so that when an issue comes up, it doesn't become a problem, because you're prepared for it. You have the documentation for your visa, or you have the amount of money you need. A lot of travelers have left the Philippines. They were already at the airport, and in their mind they're thinking, well, I'm leaving the Philippines, so I don't need any more pesos, and maybe they go to the airport with like 200 pesos in their pocket, and they're thinking, well, I'm leaving, so I don't need any more pesos. But then they find out as they're getting ready to start their check-in procedure, that there's a terminal tax or there's a travel tax, that applies to them. And so, usually they can go to the ATM, but I've had this happen. I one time went and I just wanted to get some pesos out for lunch, and every single ATM in the entire airport was offline. So I didn't end up getting lunch. I had to wait till I got to Dumaguete. But, so things happen, so the first thing you can do is do your research. That's well within your control. The second thing you can do is to either respond to a problem. And again, there's a big difference between reacting to a problem and responding to a problem. A person who reacts to a problem gets all flustered and depressed and angry and blame shifts and basically has an emotional response or an emotional reaction. That's a reaction, like when you burn yourself and you go, ow, but a response is when you stop and you think and you go, okay, what are my options here? What's the best option? What's the best route to take here, considering the amount of time, money, and energy I got working with me right now? What's the best option for solving this problem? That is a response, okay? So reaction is where you just freak out, and you don't want to do that. And one of the things you can do so that you're kind of prepared, because you're not going to be able to make an SOP for every single possible thing that could go wrong. I mean, most are going to take you by surprise. So, what you want to do, in addition to researching in advance, is you want to create a network. Now, I know some people think in their minds, well, I want to retire. I don't want to deal with people. I just want to have my girlfriend or my wife, and I want to be on the edge of an island and just fish all day. And I don't want to deal with any expats. And well, okay, I get that. But one of the things you can do to be prepared for the day that will come, the day that you have a problem, the day that you need to fix a problem, is to network. Now, through Facebook, there are so many expat groups, not just for the Philippines, but for Cambodia, Vietnam, everywhere. There's a Facebook group of expats. And not when you join one, it's not that you're going to make friends with everybody, because there's a bunch of, there's weird guys in there, there's helpful guys in there, guys with sense, guys who have no sense. So you'll just have to kind of figure out as you go, well, who has useful responses? When I ask a question, who's the one that just, you'll get these cranky old guys who they're just kind of like, oh, well, you should know better. You shouldn't have come here, and then I guess they're just like on their third bottle of beer for the morning or whatever. So those guys you can just ignore. But you'll get other guys who will say, oh, well, regarding your question, check out this agency or check out this website, whatever. Now, what you want to do is slowly kind of handpick who you're really going to become friends with, even if it's just online. Because when the day comes that you have a problem, it's not that these guys you're gonna turn to them and say, hey, can you fix my problem? Send me some money. No, that's not the point. What you want to do is have a battery of people, almost a think tank, a hand-selected think tank of guys who have experience, guys that you can PM. And at a moment's notice, you can leave them a message at 2 a.m, knowing they will read it probably about 7, 8 in the morning. And you can say, hey, I need to get this and this form done at immigration. Where do I get that? Or, my wife and I, or my fiance and I, were getting married and we were told there's some requirement. Do you know about that? And this way you've got people that you can turn to who have experience and who are willing to help you. So that's the second thing you can do, in addition to research, is network. Now, I know some of you will say, I don't like Facebook, I don't use Facebook. I'm telling you, you're cutting yourself off from a huge resource. And if your one big argument is, well, Facebook is gathering all my information. Well, my answer to that is they're only gathering information you put there. So if you don't put information, it's not there to be had. So you can protect your information. You don't have to put every school you went to or every job you worked at, or you don't have to put that information. Just leave all that empty, but have a Facebook account so that you can be part of some of these groups, these expat groups, and glean from other people's experience. That's like one of the things I really rely on when I was getting ready to come here to Vietnam, is a year in advance, I started joining Vietnam expat groups, and I started asking, and even many of you came to me and I had lunch with you, or we talked online, and you had mentioned, oh, I used to live in Vietnam. Well, I made a point to ask questions, because that's how you learn. That's how you learn the things you don't know. The other way you learn things you don't know is you just kind of march forward, not knowing anything. You make a lot of mistakes, and then you learn. I think it was, it could have been Dean Martin, I don't know. Somebody once said, experience is what you get after you need it. But you can glean experience from other people. And that's my main point, is by being selective and building friendships, whether it's online or in person or both, with people who have experience, who have lived in an area that you want to move to. They can give you, and often they're very willing to be helpful, to tell you, oh yeah, this is what I like about this city, but this is what I kind of don't like about this city, but they got this really great burger joint, but if you're looking for chicken, go to this place. They can give you all the detailed nuances because they've lived there. So take advantage of that. Research, blogs, videos, on your own, but then build those friendships online and glean from other people's experience. Now, I'll wrap it up by just saying that, again, I started by saying there's two types of problems you're going to face. There's the things that happen to you, and there's the problems that are a result of your own actions. Now, I want to emphasize on that second one, because I do get your PMs and comments, and I try to answer as many as I can. And in private, I've gotten a lot of PMs from guys who have had very similar problems. And here's the problem that leads to why they have the problem is they don't take an honest assessment of what's going on. So what I mean by that is I've talked to so many guys who all the warning signs are there. Everything from they met a Filipina and it turns out, she's possessive, she's manipulative, she throws tantrums, she's pulling, her whole tampo thing, on a regular basis. She's accusatory, she's jealous, she's all these things. And he has tried his best to tell her, hey, look, we need to work as a team. We need to trust each other. We need to be good to each other. We need to take care of each other. And she's still acting like a child. Well, the obvious solution is to look at the situation for what it is and realize the reason you're unhappy is because you want a healthy, good, mature relationship. And you're with a woman who is not mature and has no clue what's needed to have a healthy relationship. So the logical reality is that you are paired up with the wrong person. You need to end the relationship and then find that person who is ready, who does have the maturity, who does have the understanding to give you the type of relationship you want. But again, the problem with having this problem is that the guy, all the warning signs are there, but he won't stop for a minute, pull back, and say to himself, this is not working. I've given it my best shot, but you got two choices. Well, maybe three choices. One is accept the rotten situation for what it is, knowing it will never improve. Two, keep banging your head against the wall, hoping that eventually, someday, maybe she'll mature. Or three, just cut your losses, let her mature. Maybe she'll be ready for a relationship with somebody else 10 years from now. And you go find somebody who is ready for the kind of relationship that you want. So when it comes to problems that we make for ourselves, I've seen guys and talked to them, in person, and spent hours with them. And they have told me, they said, oh my gosh, this is like the fourth Filipina who has stolen $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 from me. And after they tell me the whole story, I ask them and I say, so did she get your credit card number and stole the money while you were asleep or something? That's how they stole your money? And he's like, no. I said, so in other words, she asked you for money and you said yes, and you reached in your pocket and you handed her the money. And now you're here saying that she stole your money. When in reality, you could have said no at any point, but you didn't, because you were making your decisions based on fear, what would happen if you didn't give her the money. So really, she didn't steal your money. You were just dumb enough to keep handing it out and handing it out. And now you want to cry foul and say she took your money, when in reality, she asked for it, you said yes, and you gave it to her. So all of that could have been short-circuited if the guy had, again, just taken a step back and said to himself, this whole relationship is really resting on money. If I cut the money off or lower it by 90% and she takes off, that's really not a loss. All I've lost is somebody that keeps reaching into my pocket. But they don't think it through. Again, they don't respond logically to the situation. Instead, they have a reaction and they make their decisions based on on impulse, the fact that, again, fear. It's they ask themselves, well, what's going to happen if she asks, her parents want a new roof for their house or whatever, whatever, the caribou got sick or whatever. If I say no, or I say, well, I'll give 10% and everybody else can chip in and give in their percent, she might leave me. Well, yeah, okay, so she leaves you. I mean, she's not the last Filipino on the planet. I mean, it's not the end of the world. So, especially if you're dealing with one that, I mean, it's one thing to have reasonable, requests, but, and when you care about someone and you love someone, you do want to help them and help their parents. But it's a whole other thing when it becomes obvious that the only reason that the relationship is there is because she wants your money. That's when you have to just look at it for what it is and stop it. So I would just, I guess, finish up with that is research, watch the vlogs, read the blogs, get what information you can off of Google. Like I've said, if you're going to move to an area, go to Google Maps, go to the street view, and look at the neighborhoods. When the car went down and took those photos, look at what the neighborhood looks like. If you're thinking about renting an Airbnb, look at the area for a couple blocks around it and see if that's a place you'd want to hang out. See how far it is from the beach. See how far it is from the nearest mall. So do your research. Second, go and build a network. And one of the easiest ways to do that, like I said, is on these Facebook expat groups where you can get to know these guys that have already lived there for quite a while and glean from their experience. And third, again, just be willing to look at the situation for what it is and make those hard decisions. Because it's okay, you made a mistake. You met a girl, she's pretty, you got along, you moved her in, and everything was happy for a while. And then it just really goes south 2 months later or 2 weeks later when it becomes obvious that she's more in love with your wallet than you. Well, now it's on you to cut the losses, get her out of your life, and go find the person that wants a real relationship. Because unless you do that, you're going to be stuck with this girl, this immature person who does not want what you want. Okay? So just a couple of things to think about. Again, applicable, I think, just about anywhere, but it's definitely in your face when you're an expat and you're living in a foreign country. All right, talk to you more later. See you then. Bye-bye.